So they're coming up to the starting line, and we have car number 36, Kazumi Takahashi with TMS Racing. In the lead and in the chase, we have car number 31, Jason Yeh, 441 BW Academy.
Both cars have been extremely fast today, so it should make out for a good battle.
Yeah, both guys have been throwing it hard and going super fast today.
They're making their way to this first outer zone. Jason getting right there on his door for going around outer zone 2, comes outer zone 3, gets right there and stays with him. Making their way to this touch and go. It gives him a little love tap and he spins. Oh no!
We have Jason Yeh in the lead and Kazumi Takahashi in the chase. Thumbs up, good to go.
Making their way to outer zone 1. Jason does a big entry into outer zone 1, comes around to outer zone 2. Takahashi trying to catch back up. Oh! Something happened with Jason Yeh's car. And Takahashi is going to finish out his run. That's very unfortunate for Jason Yeh.
So we're proceeding to the next battle while we're waiting for the timeout to be concluded.
Lights are on. They're making their way to outer zone 1, gaining a lot of speed. Has a good flick into outer zone 1, comes around to outer zone 2. Staying right there, getting into outer zone 3. Making their way to the touch and go. Gets left behind just a little bit, and then gains it back into outer zone 4. They're making their way to outer zone 1 with a good entry into that first outer zone. Luciama getting right there, falls a little bit behind in outer zone 2, trying to catch up through outer zone 3. Sits there right in that pocket and makes their way to his touch and go. Does a good flick going around to outer zone 4 and just stays right there next to him.
Up next at the starting line, in the lead, you have car number 77, Yusuke Kusaba with Team Cusco Racing. And in the chase is car number 4, Masanori Kohashi with Team Orange.
Making their way to this first outer zone with a big flick into outer zone 1. Masanori getting right there on his door. Does a nice close transition into outer zone 3. Staying right there with them. Making their way to this touch and go. Does a good job getting around to outer zone 4. Just stays right there to let them know I'm not going anywhere. Making their way to outer zone 1. Kohashi does a nice job getting to outer zone 1, but does even a better job getting right there on his door by Kusaba. Comes around to outer zone 3 and is not going anywhere. Comes around to his touch and go. Gives him just enough space to transition into outer zone 4 and puts it right on his door. Making their way to outer zone 1. Does a nice flick into outer zone 1, and Ruma stays right there and gets right next to him on his door for outer zone 2. Just enough room to transition for outer zone 3. He's a little shallow. Coming to that touch and go. Transitions to outer zone 4, and he gets right back into that pocket.
And now we have Ryuma in the lead and Jake Jones in the chase.
They're headed to this first outer zone Ruma does a nice job flicking it into outer zone 1. Jake gets right there on his door and is not going anywhere. Dives into this, gives him a little love tap, and then for that outer zone 3, looks like it threw Ruma off his line just a little bit, but they make their way to that touch and go in the outer zone
4. Up on the right side of the bracket, car number 21, King Gushi with Team Kazama. In the lead and in the chase, we have car number 19, Matsui with Matsumoto Kiyoshi M2 Evolution.
Making their way to outer zone 1. King Gushi does a nice job getting it outer zone 1 and 2. Matsu dives in that third outer zone, comes around, trying to stay within through this touch and go. Cuts a little bit of the line, but then gets right back into that pocket.
And now we have Matsui in the lead and King Gushi in the chase.
Making their way to outer zone 1. King Gushi stays right there with him coming around to outer zone 3. King Gushi stays right next to him. Gives them a little love tap as they make their way to that touch and go, comes around for outer zone 4, and he gets right there back next to him. Very excited to watch this.
Oh, yeah.
They're making their way to outer zone 1, getting a lot of speed coming into outer zone 1. Masanori gets right there on his door for outer zone 2. Gives him just enough room to transition and dives back into outer zone 3. Is not going anywhere as they make their way to this touch and go. Does a great job of that touch and go rounding and gets right back in his door in outer zone 4. Making their way to outer zone 1. Kawashi does a nice job getting a good flick. Kusaba gets right on his door and looks like he hit him and had to back off. Transitions to outer zone 3 and Kusaba goes off track just a little bit, slowing him down. He's trying to catch up to Kohashi and he ended up having to straighten.
And pulling up to the line now, we have car number 771, Hiroya Minowa with Cusco Racing, and car number 17 in the chase with Jin Horino, TSA Motorsport, Toyo Tires.
Making our way to this first outer zone with a big flick in outer zone 1. Jin does a nice job diving in, gets right there on his door, goes a little bit off track, falling behind, and then dives back into outer zone 3. And he still goes off track again, falling behind around this touch and go, trying to catch up in the outer zone 4. And he gets right there next to him out in the outer zone 4.
We have number 17, Jin Horino in the lead, and in the chase, number 771, Hiroya Minowa.
Making their way to outer zone 1. Does a nice job throwing in outer zone 1, and Minowa gets right there on his door. In outer zone 2, just enough room to transition to outer zone 3, and dives back in, trying to give him a little love tap, coming around to this touch and go. Minowa's doing a great job, comes around to outer zone 4 and gets right back into his door. They're making their way to outer zone 1. Does a nice job flicking into outer zone 1. Yamashita gets right on his door and giving him a little love tap. Into outer zone 2, comes around to outer zone 3. Gets right there on his door, coming around to this touch and go. Does a nice job flicking her around to outer zone 4 and just stays right there into that pocket.
Now they're lining up in opposite positions. We're going to have Yamashita in the lead and Yamanaka in the chase.
I wonder who those fans are going for.
Who can tell?
first outer zone. Mao dives right into his door on that second outer zone, comes around to outer zone 3, and is not going anywhere. Coming to this touch and go. Falls a little bit behind, but transitions and gets right back into that pocket in outer zone 4.
And pulling up to the line now, we have car number 555. Mini GT with Liberty Walk, Yukio Fausto in the lead, and in the chase, car number 9, Kiyofumi Hamada with Hush9 Racing in the lead.
Making their way to outer zone 1. Fausto does a nice job getting to outer zone 1. Hamada does a good job getting around, diving into this third outside zone. Finds the pocket and sticks with it, comes around to this touch and go. With a big flick in that touch and go, comes around to outer zone 4, and he just sits right there next to him. They're making their way to this first outer zone. Does a nice job entering outer zone 1. Fausto gets right there and is diving in. Comes around to this touch or outer zone 3. Fausto does a nice job staying right there, willing to touch the line just a little bit, making their way to this touch and go. Transitions to outer zone 3. And he stays right there next to him. Does a great job.
And this is the one more time from before, which means they're coming out twice as hard.
Exactly. Making their way to outer zone 1. Mao does a good job entering into outer zone 1. Yamashita getting right there on his door, trying to dive right after this transition. Does a good job. It's a little shallow on his angle, but comes around to his touch and go. Does a good job of that touch and go. And then, oh, Yamashita looks like he went a couple tires off track. Oh, no.
They're pulling up. Car number 37, Koichi Yamashita in the lead with TMS Racing, 55X tires. And in the chase, car number 61, Mao Yamanaka with Good Ride Motorsports.
This is the last run of the one more time. Lights are on. They're off. Making their way to outer zone 1. Yamashita does a big entry. Oh, Mao goes and gives him a low love tap and pushes Yamashita off track. We'll have to see that replay because it looks like Mao just bullied Yamashita off track.
And a by run for car number 37, Koichi Yamashita, TMS Racing, 55X tires.
This does give him the opportunity to have a nice practice lap after fixing whatever was wrong with his car.
On the plus side, it looks like he's making power again. And unfortunately, that's the end of Miles' weekend.
Now we're going straight into the Grade 8.
On the light.
Back in action, making their way to that first outer zone. Does a good job in outer zone 2. Monticello gets right next to him. That outer zone 3 gets ready for the touch and go. Goes a lot of angle after that touch and go, makes their way and puts it in his door on outer zone 4.
Switching up the order, we got Matsuyama in the lead, and we have Takahashi in the chase.
Heading to outer zone 1. Takahashi does a good job getting right there on him in that outer zone 2. Dives in on outer zone 3, gets right next to him on his door, making his way to his touch and go. Going a wide angle after that touch and go. Gets right back to his door in outer zone 4.
And looks like we have car number 4, Masanori Kohashi, with Team Orange in the chase, and in the lead we have car number 131, Yuma, Team Orange Jr. in the lead.
Teammates battling it out as they enter this first outer zone. Masanori does a good job and gets right there in that pocket, leaving him in just enough room to transition, and dives back in right there onto his door, making their way around to his touch and go. With a nice flick into that outer zone 4, and Masanori just stays right there next to him.
Now we'll see what Kohashi can do in the lead, and Yuma in the chase.
They're making their way to outer zone 1. Masanori with a big flick into outside zone 1. Yuma gets right there, dives in on this outer zone 3, making their way to this touch and go. The big flick coming around to that outer zone 4, and Ruma gets right there.
Next we have King Gucci, King Kazama in the lead, and in the chase, Hiroya Minoa, Cusco Racing.
The big flick into that first outer zone. Manoa just staying right there, giving him enough space. Transition and starts to dive in. He gets right on his door, giving him a little love tap in outer zone 3. Coming around to this touch and go. There's a nice job coming around, and Manoa just putting it right there.
Looks like we're getting ready for Hiroya in the lead and Gucci in the chase.
Making their way to outer zone 1. Manoa with a big flick, and Kengushi gets right there on his door in outer zone 2. Right on his bumper during that transition. Kengushi falls back a little bit because he went off track, and then comes around with his touch and go, trying to catch back up. And Kengushi gets in that pocket without it.
Up next we got Hamada in the lead, Hashilan Racing, and Yamashita in the chase with TMS. 5-5 in track.
Yamashita falling a little bit behind over the second outer zone, trying to catch up to this outer zone 3, making their way to the touch and go. Going a lot of angle, coming around to outer zone 4.
Pulling back up to the line, we have 37, Koichi Yamashita in the lead, and number 9, Kiyo Fuyumi, Hamada in the chase.
Making their way to this first outer zone. There's a big flick. Hamada gets right on his door in outer zone 2. Turns around for outer zone 3. Dives back in. Is a little shallow on angle. Gets trying to stay with him on the touch and go. Transitions a little late and then falls a little bit behind into that outer zone 4.
So we have car number 36, Kazumi Takahashi with TMS Racing. In the lead and in the chase, we have car number 4, Masanori Kohashi with Team Orange.
All making their way to outer zone 1. Masanori gets right in on his door for outer zone 2. Comes around for outer zone 3, through the smoke, gets right there in the pocket on his door, to this touch and go, throwing a lot of angles, transitions, and stays right there next to him in that outer zone 4.
Now we have Kohashi in the lead and Takahashi in the chase.
Making their way to outer zone 1. Masanori with a good flick. Takahashi right there with him, turning through this outer zone 3. Masanori goes a little bit off track and wavers, making their way to that touch and go. Does a nice job of that touch and go. Comes around outer zone 4.
Good on the line.
We have a clean start as they head to outer zone 1. Mino with a big flick in outer zone 1. Yamashita straightens up. As Manoa finishes out his lead run. Here's Manoa giving us a show on his bye run. With a big flick in outer zone 1 with a lot of angle in outer zone 2. Comes around to outer zone 3. With a lot of speed coming into outer zone 4.
In the lead versus car number 771, Hiroya Minoa with Cusco Racing in the chase.
Making their way to this first outer zone. Takahashi is throwing a good flick into that outer zone 1. Manoa gets right there, dives into outer zone 3, right on his door, coming around to this touch and go. Does a good job. He gets right back on his door in outer zone 4.
And then we got Minoa in the lead and Takahashi in the chase.
Making their way to outer zone 1. Manoa with a big flick. Takahashi getting right there. Dives in on his door. Just enough room to transition. Comes back around. Goes off track just a little bit and loses all that momentum. Trying to catch back up. This touch and go. And outer zone 4 is finished.
And coming in third, we have Yamashita with TMS Racing. And the round 2 winner for Formula Drift 1 is car number 771, Hiroya Minoa.